Hey, there we go. There we go. Good morning, guys. Today on Mornings in the Lab, we got a full plate. A full plate today on the Monday of the Loop. It's Easter Monday. Oh, I got some conspiracy for you guys here coming up this morning. But first of all, guys, we're gonna learn how to turn 25K of debt into 25K into savings just 90 days. Rob Scribner coming up in the second hour. We got stoicism. Sounds ancient and dusty, but we're dusting it off to show you why it's the real secret sauce to modern success. We got Tim Ebel coming up with a no BS guide to ditching the dad bod. His journey from binge eating to body transformation might just make you put down that donut this morning. And guys, listen, Hollywood fans, listen up. Jack L. Hay joins us to talk about Russell Crowe, the gladiator, nonfiction and some untold secrets behind Hollywood Upworthy stories. And hey, a special confession from yours truly. I thought about quitting coffee for 2 weeks, but I didn't. Yeah, we're going to talk about it this morning. Why I am never quitting caffeine, not putting it out the window. I'm making it part of my life forever, and I think you should too. We're going to talk about that coming up this morning as well. And hey, of course, guys, we are digging into the big playoff run for my team, the Winnipeg Jets. We got after this weekend. Playoffs of the NHL playoffs. First round just started. Winnipeg played St. Louis. We beat them game 1. We got some video drop from that evening. I took my old man to the game. We had an incredible experience. But before we dive in, guys, remember, I'm going to invite you to like this show, subscribe to the show, comment on the show. And hey, this is an R-rated experience. How do I know? I saw the guests, and I think they might have language that might offend some of you guys. Yeah, so listen, put the headphones in, put the earphones in, tell the kids that there might be language that might offend them, or just educate them on the words that we're going to use throughout the show. Listen, we are Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. I'm your host, Keith Bells. We got Christopher Martin over there. I got Jon Andersen over there. I got producer Jimmy on the buttons, and I got my Winnipeg Jets jersey on that I'm sweating like a mother in this morning. I went for a big run this morning, big lift this morning. And guys, remember, you're 9 minutes behind if you hit the snooze button. You're 9 minutes behind the guy who didn't. Jimmy, let's bring the boys who I know do not hit the snooze button. Christopher Martin. See Marty.
What's up, baby? What's up, baby?
Good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a few days. How are you? My dad's been wondering where you are. I got sat down by the OG, Mr. Brian Billis, yesterday and said, Keith, I'm like, yeah. He goes, where's Marty? I miss Marty. Like, where's Marty? I go, Marty's been busy. He's okay. I just wanted to know where Marty's been. He got in the truck on the way to the Jets game. First thing he said to me was not even hello, Keith. He's like, where's Marty? Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Yeah.
Man, I'm here, man. I'm always coming back, man. I ain't going nowhere.
I know. That's what I told him. John,
you see this?
Go. How are you, brother? How are you, John?
You see this, Keith?
Oh, look at that. Nicely done. Look at the fade. Nice and clean head. Holy smokes. What happened? Did some guy get a hold of your head or what?
I just wanted to change, man. That's all.
Oh, you're looking sharp.
Is there no cornrows in there?
No cornrows in there.
Kind of. There's listen, man. There's different phases to life. You know.
You're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
You're looking sharp and mature, Mr. Christopher Martin, this morning.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Johnny,
your cornrows. Hold on, Keith. Your cornrows was like my bleach blonde, brother.
I agree with that. You know, it's time to let it go sometimes. You know,
I've seen your bleach blonde hair. That was a nice look for you, Johnny Andersen.
Yeah. So when I was when I was probably early 20s, I thought, all right, I'm going to just lay out the future right now. I know at some point I'm going to lose my hair. So I shaved my head. I said, okay, do I have the dome for when it's time? Good. Yeah. Check. Done. Okay. Now let's have some fucking fun. So I just started.
Yes. There you go. I've had bleached hair. I've had tipped hair. I've had Johnny, you'll know this one. I've had permed hair. Yeah. Remember the perms, Johnny, back when you were up?
I can't, that I would say honestly, as once I found myself, I would have had the balls to have a fucking afro. But when I was young, there was no fucking way. I didn't have the backbone. I didn't know me well enough to be okay with being different like that. You know,
I went to a high school that had a a hairstyling salon in the high school because they were teaching kids how to cut hair. I would go on weekends to get my hair cornrowed, Marty, so I can get my hair all rode up and go to the.
Did you wear a big fucking clock around your neck too?
Before Flavor Flav, I was ahead of cultural appropriation, Christopher Martin. I totally was.
Well, because you probably could see the future from a long fucking time ago. See, if I'm gonna beat this little dude to the fucking punch, I'm gonna wear a big clock around my neck.
Yeah, that's exactly. But no, true story. I'd go in to get my hair all cornrowed up, but my dad, old school dude, he would not have it. So I would have to come home quickly to grab my gear, have my toque or my hood on, and wouldn't see my old man. And then on Monday he'd see me. He'd like, why's your hair all frizzy? Oh, I don't know. Because I took my cornrows out after the weekend at the bar. So yeah, I'm all about that.
I love it.
But boys, big weekend for Uncle Keith over here, and it's going to be. Well, I told you guys for the next few months, we're kicking off the show with some hockey insights. Jimmy, I got a video. Boys, I took my old man to the game on Saturday, and I'm going to introduce you to the Winnipeg Whiteout. I got about a minute video to show you guys of my experience on Saturday. The Winnipeg Jets played the St. Louis Blues, and well, we won. Jimmy, let's run the video. Here we go.
I love walking to stadiums like that.
Yeah. It's a baby stadium.
15,000 and a half.
I'm playing.
Oh, I know. That's from my glasses.
Oh, wow.
Glasses.
Here we go.
That's live, man.
Yeah. Now here's the game-winning goal. Watch this. We're tied. 4 minutes left in the game. I happen to have my glasses on when we scored. That's my dad.
Yeah.
Now here's what I love. That's 83. This might be one of our last 2 moments doing this together, right? So I made a point of having my glasses on, and we captured the winning goal of that game here. So game 1, Winnipeg took it, and we got game 2 this evening. That's Jimmy, you can stop it there, Bill. That's a Winnipeg Whiteout. That's 15,000 people all wearing white, all cheering like a mother. And it's unlike anything you've ever experienced in your life. It's just ridiculous.
Dude, I'll tell you, I've never been, me personally, I've never been in a stadium that's fucking rocked harder than Arena Mexico in Mexico City. It was fucking nuts. It's about that size. It's about somewhere between 15 and 20,000 people. You know, those motherfuckers, they'll sell as many tickets as people can fit in the door.
Yeah,
so there's no such thing as max capacity in that down there. Well, but you'd have these. I mean, they're bringing in like, it's like, it looks like a tire pump, but it's a horn, right? Yeah. And they got the fucking, you know, like if you're out in the ocean, these things, like fuck, there's no limitation to noisemakers. Like in America, you can't bring some of that crazy shit in.
I know. It's so true. And then, hey, I also saw some big news on the current events front last night. John Cena knocked out Dusty Rhodes in WrestleMania last night in Vegas. Pretty big deal in the world of entertainment, sports entertainment. And I know that we like to touch on some fun things, but that's a pretty big deal last night too. Marty, were you paying attention to that? Did you watch that? Did you see the news about that or what?
I don't really keep up anymore, man. But I saw the only thing about WrestleMania I saw was people trying to leave. They were going up the opposite escalator.
Really?
And some of the motherfuckers couldn't get up. They too out of shape.
Oh man! And the last thing I want to talk about this morning before we get into the big show, guys, and I got to take my glasses off for this one. I was talking to Jimmy before the show, and I have perhaps some conspiracy thoughts to share with you guys today.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So it's not lost upon me at all. Not lost upon me that the Vice President of the United States was in the Vatican yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. And today we wake up and the guy's dead. The Pope died.
The Pope died yesterday?
What?
Yeah, the Pope's dead. We woke up this morning and the Pope's dead. Pope Francis passed away this morning. Unfortunate news on Easter Monday. And listen, I've been around long enough to just kind of dot the I's and cross the T's. Like, Easter's a pretty big deal in the world of Catholicism. Like, might be one of the biggest days of the year. So, I pray to my Catholic friends, and I'm a Catholic and so forth. But the fact that the Pope dies on Easter Monday.
Well, you got gets depends on which side of the fence you're looking at. Is it half full or half empty? It's like me. If I died in a squat rack, don't cry for me.
I just wanted to make light of it this morning because the world is pissing on the United States administration everywhere, and the vice president just happens to go to the Vatican to go spend time with the Pope. He leaves the next day, the guy's dead. I'm just putting it out there, just floating a balloon. That's, I'm not trying to make humor of anything. I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm just making an observation.
I think no matter who came to visit him, the fact that he died like the way he did was he probably spent many hours meditating on, praying about the perfect day to die. Take me on this day, God. And it happened. And because somehow politics entered the equation, it's all fucked up now.
Well, and I got one more. Go ahead, Marty.
I was gonna say maybe he shares some wisdom with the vice president.
That's it.
And he never shared with anyone before. That was the way he went out.
And I got one more thing.
That's it. Like right before someone dies, they give them they put themselves on a table, and then they can go.
That's it.
Oh man, I got to say one more thing. So my niece was baptized yesterday, and I've been baptized. I was raised Catholic. I put my kids through Catholic school. But guys, I'm just gonna make an observation on behalf of Uncle Keith over here. Stood there watching the church for an hour. Marty, you've been through this. Johnny, you have as well. I just observed and I sat back and I just asked myself questions for the whole hour. What the hell is going on? It's 2025.
What time did he die? Do we know what time did he die?
I don't know. I woke up this morning to alert on my phone that he passed.
Crazy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But Marty, I wanted to say, Marty, I go to the service yesterday, and it's not lost upon me that these rituals we still do in 2025. You just kind of have to look at them and, without judgment, just kind of scratch your head, eh? You're like,
well, why do you say that? Is it because they're so traditional, or
and again, it makes me curious. It fascinates me that these traditions that are from like the medieval days of whenever, that we carry our smartphones to church, and now we're eating some guy's body and drinking some wine as if it's blood. And again, I don't want to be disrespectful of the whole thing. I simply want to offer curiosity and observation that it's just when you stand outside and watch it, it's like, what the hell's going on right now?
Well, I'll tell you what it is though, brother, and this is something I say all the time, is that believing or faith is a fucking skill. You have to practice it. Yes. And so when you have rituals and like when you go and you take a sip off the glass and hope you don't get the fucking flu,
that's my point. I was watching.
But I'm saying, you take a sip off the glass, you eat the fucking cracker. These are two exercises in developing your fucking skill of believing. Because faith is a skill. You can't just say, oh, yeah, I believe, and not fucking practice your belief. So really what's happening here is the church is, most people don't realize the church has given people two simple exercises every time they show up to believe.
You know what, John, that's exactly my point, is that I was watching all the rituals and all of the things and how, the candlelight, like the way we cross ourselves, right? I think all the things that we do as Christians or Catholics, right? And again, no judgment. I don't care what religion you carry. But John, to your point, when you believe in something, those little rituals, right? Like, it's so incredible to me, like all the habits, right? And you watch these humans just faithfully doing this to do this. And then we take them to a restaurant and they just crush burgers and the bad food and all the bad.
I think the problem with that is that they're somehow, some way, the idea of what's being done has been lost. It's because it's like, look, these are the exercises that we're doing to practice our belief, practice our faith, whatever adjective you want to use. It's because it becomes this mindless get up, stand in line, take a swig off the cup and eat a cracker. It's almost like they've kind of lost. I don't want to say they, like it's a blank statement. Many people have lost the whole spirit of what the drill is about.
No, but
if they did have that, it would carry out into other parts of their lives better. So to your point, drinking the fucking, having a swig and eating a cracker and then, going to the fucking donut shop, maybe they would think that second decision better because, your body is your temple. You're supposed to believe.
Yes.
That belief would start to spread. So unfortunately, I think people have lost touch with the practice of belief when they're doing what they're doing with the church.
Yes. Good morning. Good time. Good morning, Holroyd. Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Define. Go ahead, Marty.
I just want to add one thing similar to that. Me and my mom were talking yesterday about how like churches now, they'll have like something called the overflow room.
Okay.
Where it's like, it's too many people in church. So they got this room. It's like a dark room with a projector.
Yes.
And you watch the service, you at the service, but you're not in the room. You watching the service from another room.
Yes.
And it's just like showing more of like that disconnect. She was like, she didn't grow up like that, but I grew up like that. You know, I've been seeing that since I was a kid. So
yeah,
that's kind of just it's just
I never heard that before, bro.
It's so true.
I started practicing my faith. Once I learned to, I guess I did find, you could say I probably found my first bit of like spiritual faith in a church camp, but I quickly realized I was able to kind of, I don't know how I would say I figured it out. I just kind of started to realize that I didn't have to go to Sunday school for me to believe what I believe.
Yes,
I agree.
Well, and the other thing, Jimmy, I'm going to get to the accountability check in a second here, Jimmy. The other thing that fascinated me, and Johnny, you said it, is that I spent the whole, like, it had been a while since I'd been in church. So I spent some time observing. I was very present. I was very aware. I was enjoying the moment, but I was observing and being very curious. And the other thing I observed was being curious about how many people were there because that's what they were, quote unquote, supposed to be there. Because their parents wanted them there, because that's what they've always done. But they weren't really actively practicing their beliefs. They were just going through the motions.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
And I saw a lot of that too. So I left there and I was eager to have the chat with you guys because again, I have no judgment on it, just all grace. But easy to observe because you see these folks just going through these practices and go some half-assed, some very disciplined, some very principled, and it's just fascinating to me. And then again,
the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And the problem, unfortunately, if you're not practicing your faith, you're probably not practicing your health, or you're practicing everything else. You know, so
yes.
But hey, before we go to the accountability check-in,
do
you guys notice what I'm not wearing today?
Oh yes, I do.
Wearing might be a little bit of a confusion.
You don't have
word.
a cigar.
That's
because we're at our house in Mexico, and fucking Terry would kill me if I smoked this. You know, in the California house, the studio doubles as my smoking lounge.
Yeah. I did notice that actually, and that actually did come up in conversation. So Brian, my dad, was first of all curious about Marty, and then secondly, what time does Johnny get up and start smoking that cigar? We go, probably after 3 or so in the morning.
I'm fucking jonesing, dude. I'm a fucking jonesing, man. I'm gonna have Jesus Christ. I'm like, holy Christ, where's my shoe? I was literally almost gonna put the son of a bitch in my mouth and just not light it up. I may do that here.
Hey, I wanted to add something real quick. I couldn't get the word in.
Yeah.
I wanted to say I opened my eyes like Johnny when I went to school with one of the pastor's kids.
Yeah.
And the pastor's kid the daughter was saying cuss words after school. I said, "Oh yeah, this I gotta take a different angle."
It's because there's the pastor we've all seen it. You know, the pastor's kid rebels because he's been thumped with the Bible on the head too many times. He says, "Fuck this shit," or she says, "Fuck this shit." I'll tell you, if I was a father, I would much rather if I was a father and a pastor, I probably would have asked God for a boy, because if you have a girl and she's rebelling, that's a harder deal much harder to control.
Well, then Marty, the other thing I wanted to know yesterday too, when they were handing out the baskets to collect money from all of us sitting in the church, you know how they ask for money, right? They ask for donations, right?
You know they collect cash apps now.
Well, yeah,
and they send the car swiper around too.
I'm sure I'm thinking that the priest needed gas money because God told him he needed gas money. So I'm sure he reached in there after and is like, "You need gas money for tomorrow. Grab yourself $20." I didn't steal it. God told me I needed gas money. All right, there you go. All right, we're doing the accountability check-in. We're going to come back with our first guest, Jack L. Hay. Jimmy, let's get these boys off the stage. All right, why I don't set goals anymore? No, at least not the way that I used to. I used to set big, audacious goals. Map out every step, chase the milestone. But somewhere along the way, I realized that the goal wasn't the problem. My relationship to the goal was. I'd hit the goal and then I'd feel nothing. I'd be like, oh, or I'd miss it and I'd feel like shat. Either way, I was chasing something outside of myself. Now, I set those intentions instead. I set them inside. Daily intentions, clear, simple, immediate. Did I show up fully today? Did I do the hard thing I said I would? Did I stay aligned with the person I'm becoming? That's the game now. Less pressure, more presence, more progress. Some days I miss, guys. I do. And yeah, some days I still feel lost. Today was one of them. True story. Yep. But not as often and not for long, because I'm not waiting for a finish line that's over there to tell me about who I am and what I can achieve. I've already decided that before you even get up and get going. So ask yourself, what are you achieving today? What have you already achieved? Didn't even know it. It might surprise you. There's your accountability check-in this morning on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. Let's see here. I need to get my... Why am I having some troubles with my notes here this morning? There we go. All right, we're going to come back with our next guest, but after I get my... There we go there. We're going to bring back our first guest coming up in just a quick second, guys. Here, love the power of live conversation because when things go sideways, you just kind of make them as you go along. But we got our first guest coming up here this morning, you guys. He is... There we go. You ever wondered what it's like seeing Russell Crowe, the gladiator, now I'm dating myself, portray a character you brought back from history? Today's guest knows exactly that and why Googling isn't enough to write truly great nonfiction. This morning, Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends is excited and ridiculously excited to introduce you to our first guest. Jim, let's bring him up. Jack L. Hay. What's going on, my brother?
Hey, Keith. I'm so glad to be here. I'm excited, too.
Yeah. Hey, are you L. Hay or L. High?
It's L. High.
L. High. There you go. Jack, where are you joining us from today?
Minneapolis.
Oh, just down the road from me.
Yeah.
You're just a neighbor. I'm up here in Winnipeg, the home of the Winnipeg Jets, as you can see. Yeah, and you're my rival to the south, the home of the Minnesota Wild there, Jack L. High. So Jack's joining us from Minnesota today. And Jack, you've been writing
Jack.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Keith.
You've been writing nonfiction since '93. Does that mean you've officially spent more time with historical figures than with some of your real life friends?
It means that I've spent more time with historical figures than even my children at times. So I've been doing this for a long time, even before '93, since '84. And I love doing it. And I don't know how many of your people in your audience read true history, that is nonfiction history as opposed to historical fiction, but it's a way to get into different worlds and into the minds of people who have been here before us. And that's why I'm so interested in it and love doing it.
Oh, that's awesome. Marty, so Jack L. Hay is an acclaimed author who's gripping true stories from history, vividly back to life, from lobotomies to World War II dramas. His work isn't just fascinating, it's Hollywood worthy, literally. Russell Crowe is set to portray one of his characters, and we're going to get into some of the secrets behind some great nonfiction and why the best stories are never found online. Jack, we like to ask everybody this first question when they get into the lab. The first question we like to ask everybody, the first most important question is, brother, what's your morning routine?
Well, my morning routine is not getting up this early. That's how it starts. But I get up, I have a cup of coffee, just one. That's it for the day.
Yeah.
And then I start working. I do not believe in writer's block because I don't believe that writing comes from inspiration. It just comes from sitting down and doing it. And so that's what I do every morning, starting at about 8:30. And I'm working on a new book right now. So that means sitting at the computer, going over my notes, going over the outline and the index to my notes that I've made, and just putting the fingers on the keyboard and letting them work. That's how it
Brother, I love that, because what I hear you saying is you're disciplined enough, sit down and start. And once you do that, everything falls into place. Call it inspiration, call it motivation, call it what you will. But if you don't sit down and put those fingers on the keys, it doesn't start. And I fucking love it.
Yeah, I don't believe in inspiration. I believe in just doing it. My plumber has never complained about plumber's block. The guy who delivers my mail has never said he's blocked about doing that. And so, it's just doing it, whether it feels good or not, and whether it's working or not.
That's discipline. You just summed up discipline, my friend.
Well, I guess it takes discipline, but it helps to have results. And a book takes a long time to write, a couple years for me. Some people are probably faster or slower, but once you have it done, you have it done. And in the case of my book, Keith, you've been referring to The Nazi and the Psychiatrist, which has been turned into this movie starring Russell Crowe. That book took a good amount of time, and it's there, regardless of how the movie comes out. My book is there, and I'm happy with it and proud of it.
You know what I find fascinating about authors and movie makers and big vision creators? Marty, Jack sits down to write a book, and he's committing something that he thinks might take him 1 to 2 years to get this thing done. He doesn't know whether it's going to be any good, doesn't know whether it's going to be bad, but he's committed to writing this thing. And Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got your fingers crossed that at the end of your period of time of writing this thing, it's half decent to make you some cash. And I find that fascinating because you basically put your head in a closet for 2 years and go, okay, I'm going to work. And when I come out of the closet, I hope this is worthy of something. Like, we talk about entrepreneurs, Johnny and Marty, that are afraid to get started and do something. And what I love about you, Jack, is that you just, your momentum, your movement the momentum starts the movement. You write down, you start writing. But then you come up to it 2 years later and you got something completed. How as a writer, you go through that period of endurance, believing in yourself. I think a lot of humans can learn from that experience.
I try and stack the odds on my side when I begin a project. So I'm not going in with a story that, I'm not sure whether this is going to be good or not. I have confidence that it will be good. So I thought a lot about what makes a great nonfiction story. And one thing that I've discovered, and I haven't heard many other authors talk about this, is that it helps for me to have my central characters in pairs. So in The Nazi and the Psychiatrist, there is the psychiatrist. His name is Douglas Kelly. He was a U.S. Army psychiatrist assigned to Nuremberg at the end of World War II. Yeah. His job was to evaluate the top German prisoners being held there for war crimes. And then the other character, the Nazi in the title, is Hermann Goering. Dr. Kelly evaluated and treated 21 other people, but Goering is the central one. And these two men, because they were different in many ways and very similar in other ways, they bounced off each other. They had conflicts. They were in sync at times. And to me, that's what really makes a story. So if I have something like that at the beginning, I feel confident that when I come out of it all, at the end, I'll have something good.
Wow. We're hanging out, Jack.
I like that. So you got I just love real sorry, Keith. I was just say you've got some framework that you trust that works for. I love it. That's we're just talking about practicing, belief and faith. You basically found your formula to believe in. I love it, man. Good shit.
Right. Thank you. And structure is really important. You have to
talking my language now, brother.
You have to have a blueprint before you get going. And for me, anyway. So that's what really helps to build a book. A book is just step by step, sentence by sentence, page by page, and then it adds up to something.
That's fascinating.
Keith, I like this guy, Keith. I like his drop. This is like the most fundamental shit, but he's applying it probably one of the most difficult tasks.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, Marty, you got to rock and roll here today again, brother?
Yeah, I got to roll.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Jack, can you stick around myself and Johnny a little bit longer today?
Absolutely, I'll be here.
So, Jimmy, we're going to do the fit tip with Marty, and then we're going to walk Marty out so we can head on to get over to the gym there. We're going to keep the conversation going with Jack. Got a ton of questions with Jack about structure and writing books and so forth. So let's do this. Let's get to the fit tip with Mr. Christopher Martin. I'm going to quickly do a run over here for a break. Marty, get after it. Come back with Jack. How high? Let's do it, buddy.
All right, let's get it, man. All right, today's fitness tip. You got to have a sense of urgency with patience. Sounds crazy, right? All right. You've not been feeling like yourself, right? You see your body declining, right? You're feeling sluggish, you're feeling tired. That's when you need the sense of urgency. I got to do something about this, because what you don't want to do is sit around and wait, right? And become more sluggish. Right? Become lazier, become a little more insecure about your body, about how it looks when you buckle that belt, how it looks when you put that polo on, right? But you got to have patience here. you didn't get to that point in 2 weeks. You didn't get to that point in 2 months. You probably didn't get to that point in 2 years, right? Think about when you were a toddler, right? You didn't have the belly. You didn't have the man boobs. You didn't have the big back, right? It took time to develop that, right? So it's going to take time to get it off and have some sustainable results forever, because you don't just want to work out for the challenge and look good for a vacation, right? You want to look good for the rest of your life. You want to feel good for the rest of your life. So you got to have a sense of urgency when making the moves to make the change. So that's calling a personal trainer. That's getting your gym membership. That's getting your online coach like Johnny or like myself, right? Have the sense of urgency there. Get the process started, because it's going to take time. It's going to force you to have some patience, right? And don't try a quick fix that's going to work for 2 weeks and you gain the weight back, right? Something that's not going to build sustainable habits, something that's not going to build discipline. Have some patience in your journey. And that's the fitness tip for today.
The Christopher Martin, our boy, getting after it every single day.
Yes, sir.
I love it, buddy. Enjoy your day today, pal.
You enjoy yours. And Jack, enjoy yours as well. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right, Marty, we'll see you tomorrow, buddy. Marty's going to get out of here, guys. Marty's always here. He's back here tomorrow morning. Mornings in the lab with Keith and friends. Our boy, Christopher Martin. We're here with Jack Allhigh, myself, Jon Andersen, Keith Billis, every single day, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Jack is a writer. He's written a few things. Jack.
A few. Yeah.
A few things, yeah.
I've written, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 10 books, something like that. And the first book that I wrote for a national readership, you mentioned it earlier, it's called The Lobotomist.
Yeah.
It's a biography of the doctor. His name was Walter Freeman, who championed and developed that surgical procedure called lobotomy.
Yes.
To treat psychiatric illnesses. And that book happened because I met somebody here in Minneapolis whose uncle had undergone a lobotomy.
Jesus.
And she was trying to learn things about his past and figure out why it happened and all of that. So I got involved, and it was just a rabbit hole of fascinating stuff. The man, Walter Freeman, was a man of really complicated motivations and desires and goals, and he did some bad stuff, but he launched an era of psychiatry in which mental disorders were primarily viewed not as behavioral stuff from the past, but things going wrong in the brain. And that's where psychiatry is by and large now.
That's fascinating.
So he was a forebearer of all that.
Yeah.
And then I wrote the book we've been talking about earlier, The Nazi and the Psychiatrist. But I've done others. I did a book called The Lost Brothers.
Yeah.
And that's about 3 little boys, brothers here in Minneapolis, who in 1951 went out on a Saturday afternoon to play at the park near their home and were never seen again. And the family, for decades and decades after that to the present day, are still looking for those brothers who would all be in their 70s by now.
Wow.
And so that's it's one of the oldest continuing missing child cases in the world. And then I have a book coming out next month called Face in the Mirror. It's about a man who had a face transplant at the Mayo Clinic in 2016, how that came to be and what his life has been like since then. And
what exactly is a face transplant?
It's for people who have had severe injuries to their faces, or maybe malformations or burns in some cases, who need a complete replacement of all the tissues that go into the face. And so that includes skin, muscle, bone, circulatory system, nervous system, everything.
Not a plastic surgery thing. This is like a hip replacement, but a face replacement.
Right. But these are performed by plastic surgeons, but it's not like a cosmetic surgery sort of procedure. And it's an extremely complicated procedure. This face transplant I wrote about took 56 continuous hours. And
holy shit.
It turned out well. And it's
continuous, meaning that the surgery didn't stop for 56 hours. They had like different crews rotating in. Is that what was happening?
You're right. It didn't stop, but there was one surgeon who was there the entire time, except for a 4-hour nap break in the middle. So
Wow.
there was one guy who was in there for the whole haul. And a lot of people believe that face transplants happen to look better because the patient needs or wants to look better. That certainly is part of the rationale. But even more important, the person needs function in the face. We all have faces and we all rely on them for many different things. It's how we present ourselves to the world, yes, but we also use them to eat, to kiss, to express emotion.
Yeah,
all of that.
communication.
Yes.
Yeah, holy smokes.
And if you lose that, you've lost a lot of what human existence is all about. And so the patient I wrote about, Andy Sandness, went through all of that. He's one of the rare people on our planet who has had 3 faces in his life.
Wow.
He had the one he was born with, and then the one that was reconstructed after he shot himself. And then finally, 10 years later, the transplanted face. So it's for me, it was a moving story and really worthwhile to get into. And Andy and his surgeon, Samir Mardini, were great guys in pairs. It's a characters in pairs, as I mentioned before. And I'm so glad I had the chance to write that book.
Wow.
I mean, finding a unique situation to write about obviously is have a piece of the drill. I've never heard of something like that. So I mean, gee,
Well,
Christmas.
There haven't been many people who have undergone it. If less than 100 in the world.
Wow. Hey, Jack, how do you, as an accomplished writer, how do you maintain reader engagement when historical facts or dense scientific facts or dense information gets in the way of the story?
Yeah, well, Keith, you've just identified one of the hardest things about writing these kinds of books, because it's a story. And so that means things need to keep moving. This was a big challenge in the face transplant book I was just talking about, because I knew that a central part of the book had to be the surgery itself. And I had to describe that, and I should describe that because it's fascinating. And it's important to understand.
That's where all the question marks are.
Yeah.
That's
right.
where my question marks are.
But how do I write that without making the whole narrative come to a halt? Because it's Andy's story as the patient. And so I worked really hard on that. And the way to keep it from bogging down the rest of the story is to make it part of the story, in the sense of only including what's important to the story and leaving everything out. For writers like me who write nonfiction books, a big part of our work is deciding what to leave out. And in order to know what to leave out, we have to understand really thoroughly what our story is about and what's important to keep in.
Hey, Jack, obviously, we are living in an era of AI now, which is helping us write things, discover things, and use these tools in ways we could not have imagined. As an author, what unique ways are you using AI to do your research and perhaps even in your writing processes, since you've clearly stated that you don't use it to actually write? But I have to assume that as a man who has evolved the technology, you went from the pen and pencil to the typewriter to the computer. I'm sure you're not writing all your books on a typewriter. How are you now using some of these tools to help you be a better writer, Jack?
Yeah, you're right, Keith. I don't use AI to write, but I have found some specific tasks or chores, I think I would call them, that AI is good at. For instance, someone a few months ago told me that Chat GPT is really good at reading handwriting, human handwriting. So I have, for the project I'm working on now, all of these handwritten letters, correspondence between two of the people in my story. They're hard to read. They're really time consuming to transcribe into something usable. So I decided I would try it. So I made PDF images of these letters, uploaded them to Chat GPT, and it transcribed them flawlessly. I was astounded.
Yeah.
And in seconds also.
Yes.
So that saved me uncountable hours. So for tasks like that, which really feel more like burdensome chores, I think AI is great. But as for writing, as many people know, AI is not yet a good writer. It's an acceptable writer for certain kinds of material, but for the kinds of books I write, which have a personal voice and are aimed at readers who want a personal voice, it's not suitable for that kind of writing.
Hey, you're hanging out with Keith and John here, Mornings in Lab with Keith and Friends with our guest, Jack. Hi. Rick Clody, I see you there in the comments, brother. Sorry I haven't got to you here today. Jack, you got to meet Rick Clody. Rick is one of our avid listeners, hangs out all the time on the show with us. Great, solid man. I think you guys would get along quite well, actually. Jack, meet Rick. Rick, meet Jack. I expect you guys to be connecting over on the LinkedIn platform there and get after. Howard, I see you there as well. Yes, would love to see Toronto, Winnipeg, and Stanley Cup Finals. Not really, actually. And I see you there as well. Good time. Hey, Jack, what's one unknown historical story you've always wanted to write about but haven't yet?
You're asking me to give the crown jewels, to tell secrets. Wow.
So hard questions here in the lab, my brother. It's all we got Johnny on the show. He hasn't left yet.
Well, I'll tell you a story. There is a story that I've written a couple of articles about that I would really like to expand in a book, and you haven't yet figured out a way to do it. And it's about a group of 22 African Americans who went to the Soviet Union back in 1933 to be in a film, the propaganda film the Soviets were making about race relations in North America. And so they went over there. They were a really interesting group of people. None of them were actors. None of them had any experience with the movie business. As it turned out, the Russians also did not have a lot of experience in the movie business. Wow. And they were there for months and had a fascinating time experiencing Soviet society, which at first they thought was race blind and then learned it wasn't. Often people who declare themselves race blind aren't. And so it opened a dispute between the US government and the government of the Soviet Union and exploded into something much bigger than it had been originally. So it's a great story, wonderful characters, and I'd love to do a book about it, but it just hasn't happened yet.
I love that. I love how you find something that's curious to you, and as an author and as a writer, you have the ability to go attack it, right? And I'm a huge fan of the moments behind the moment. We see something happening, and then I get really curious about how it all comes to life. So in this situation, it makes me curious about, so who are these 22 African Americans? How did they get hired? Who found them? Did they know what they were getting into? Did they know what they were going over? Like, all those things are fascinating to me. Right. And like that to me is, like when I met Johnny, like, so what was Johnny going through the first time he got on stage to win his bodybuilding championship? Right. Because society focuses so much on the moment. I wonder what happens the night before the moment. I wonder how Johnny slept and what he ate before he got on stage for the moment. Right. And Jack, I think you as an author, as a curious human, that's where your curiosity comes from as well. Right, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was just talking about one story I'd like to develop, but I have a database which now has 3,000 stories that I would like to develop. And of course, some of them, they're not all great. And I've got to find out which are the best. But there are stories and stories out there, and it takes me years to bring a story to some kind of readable fashion. So you have to be in it for the long haul and have patience. When people ask me, what does it take or what do you need to be a writer, I always say talent is the least part of it. It's more about persistence and patience and stubbornness.
Interesting.
If people would say, you know what, I'm going to take a year and commit to this and see what type of progress I make, it's so much different than, well, I'm going to give this a go for the next 60 days or 90 days or 30 days. You're talking about this micro time frame. You're not going to get good enough in that small time frame to really start making those big strides. And it's the crazy part about it is, like, in my life, that year, I've been able to pivot so many different things, because when I say, okay, I'm going to give this a year, And I don't even really think I'm going to give it a year. I'm just going to go. And I mean, of course, in the beginning, I just say the year. Once I realized that timeline was great enough for me to do something big enough that it was going to keep going. And it's just all it is. It's just a shift in frame of mind of how you're going to attack your task.
And a really important aspect of that, John, is that bodybuilders don't think about bodybuilding. They do it. Writers don't think about writing. They do it. And so if you're going to devote that year, whatever amount of time you choose, you've got to do it and not just think about it.
Well, it's fascinating.
And you think it like this too, you know, the guy, I just saw this. I don't remember who it was that said it, but the guy that loves to run is going to get to the destination much faster and much more efficient than the guy who loves the destination. So you love to write, you're going to be a great writer. I like to lift weights, and I've done all sorts of crazy shit under the weightlifting umbrella, as I call it, because the weightlifting is like the core of what I love to do. So I can kind of like, you could write all this different type of shit. Well, I can do all these different things off my weightlifting base because I love to lift, you love to write, and we can pick our destinations because we're going somewhere. The beautiful thing we can, well, I want to go over there now. I want to write that book now. You know, I want to be a pro strongman. I want to be a pro wrestler. Now I want to be a pro bodybuilder. You know, I love the fact that you're taking like an author writing a book, such a big project, but I love how you just uncovered the stuff that we talk about all the time on this show and applied it to this very long duration time frame that most people just don't understand. That's what it takes.
I think it takes tons of courage. John, I think it takes tons of courage. You know, and Rick Clody comes in and says, I live in a town, like Rick lives in Nashville, and we know Nashville is full of writers, right? Musicians writing, right? Hoping that something they're writing is going to turn into something worthwhile. But that takes courage to commit to. Good morning, Amy Reinhardt. I see there in the comments as well. So, Jack, when you say to me and Johnny that, I'm sitting down for a year, 2 years to write this, and yes, you stack your odds hoping that what you're committing to is going to be worthwhile. But man, that's a commitment of intention that I know many folks normally would be reluctant to go after.
Yeah, and writing, like all these other tasks or pursuits we've been talking about, it's not just one activity. You can break it into many different activities, and probably the part of writing that I like isn't writing, but researching. And you mentioned earlier, Keith, that the best way to find information about stories isn't by Googling it, and that's true, absolutely. And it's by going to talking with people who have knowledge of the story, and also by going to archives. The world is full of archives that are jam-packed with wonderful stuff, fantastic stories, and 99% of that stuff has never been digitized, will not be on the internet probably ever.
And what about all the shit that gets digitized? It's not really fucking real anyway. You talk to the person like, oh, well, Google said this, but this fucking person I'm talking to is giving me the real deal, you know?
Yeah. Well, you have to be skeptical, and you have to double check and fact check and all of that. But there's so much wonderful material, but you have to get out of your chair and find it, and find the people who can lead you to it and who can talk about it.
Yeah, hang on,
right
Jack.
there. That's powerful, right there, brother.
That's right. Hey, Jack, we're gonna work towards wrapping it up here. I got some quick hitters coming at you before we got a final question for you. We got Jorie Janzen coming up with some conversation around protein and personalizing nutrition coming up here in a few moments here on the protein break. Jack, some rapid fire for you, okay, brother? Here we go. Ready?
All right.
Here we go. Favorite historical era you would time travel to?
I write almost exclusively about the 20th century, so not much in the way of time travel since I lived in it, but that's my favorite era.
Love it. You talked about your morning routine at the beginning of our conversation. You are structured or spontaneous, or a bit of both?
No, it's structured. I write my list of what I'm going to do every morning. That's the first thing I do, and then I try to follow it. Sometimes, I'm not so good at it, but yes, structured is for me.
Jack, do you decide the night before you get up to what you're going to write, or when you sit down in the morning, you start? Like, so just share with Johnny now your process there. Is it a night before decision, or is it the morning of a decision?
It's a months before decision. I always know well in advance what I'm going to write because I'm following my outline and my structure. So it's not a spontaneous decision at all.
Oh, this is awesome. Best nonfiction book not written by Jack Ahai.
There's a book that I love to recommend to people by an author named Tracy Kidder,
Yes.
Kidder.
Yes.
And it's called Old Friends. And it's about two elderly men living in a nursing home. They're roommates.
Oh.
And how their relationship develops over time. It sounds like a novel, but it's not. It's factual. And it's an incredible story. I would recommend that anybody find Old Friends.
It's going to be Keith and Johnny one day, Jack. Trust me.
I hope so.
Guilty pleasure historical fact.
Okay. I feel guilty whenever I tell people that immigrants who entered the U.S. via Ellis Island through that entry point during the period of great immigration hardly ever had their names changed there. It's widely believed that the immigration officials played around with people's names and changed them. In truth, it hardly ever happened.
Interesting. Speaking of immigration, guys, quick little funny fact for you guys right over the weekend. Did you know this is the first time in the history of the world where there's more people not living in their birth nation? Did you know that the migration patterns of the world, that there's more people living in places where they weren't born than ever before, which is contributing to the change in global politics. There's a lot of changes happening because people are being born in India and moving to Canada, or being born in America and moving to Ireland. But the fact of the matter is, for the history of the entire world, there's more humans not living in their birthland than ever before. I thought that was quite an interesting fact.
I didn't know that. And with another thing that means is that they're moving for a reason, obviously, and it's because of strife or lack of opportunity in their home country.
Yeah, I saw a big story this weekend on the New York Times about it. And Jack, last question for you, brother. The last rapid fire. Favorite midnight snack while writing?
I don't eat while writing, and I also don't write at midnight. I keep such regular hours. I'm really a 8 to 5 kind of guy, kind of writer. And so by midnight, I'm 66 years old. I am fast asleep.
Nice. Nicely done.
I love it.
Jack, one last question before we wrap up, buddy. If your life story was adapted into a film, what surprising historical twist would shock the audience in the final scene?
In the final scene? Gee, I haven't seen the final scene yet, but I would hope there would be something about me getting older and coming to some big understanding about myself and the people I love, and a better understanding of what my place is in all of this, because that's constantly evolving. That, I guess, that's part of getting wisdom and getting older. So some kind of climax like that.
I love it. Jack Ahai, hanging out with myself and Jon Andersen this morning with Mornings in the Lab. Jack, where can everybody find you and catch up with you and connect with Jack?
At my website is the best place, and it is elhai.com. That's spelled EL-HAI.com.
Awesome. Jack, you were wonderful, man. I thoroughly enjoyed your company, thoroughly enjoyed the nuggets you dropped for us. Johnny, any final words for Jack before we say goodbye to Jack?
It's great meeting you, brother. I just love the fact that you've taken, what you do as a writer, and you basically become successful with what you do because the base principles are there. And that's so much of what we talk about here.
Thanks, Johnny. It's good to hear you say that.
Yeah. John, I agree, man, too. Like, I didn't expect that nugget you dropped there, Jack, but the fact you sit down and you create your momentum through your movement, and your movement is writing, and you're like, I don't need inspiration. I just start writing. When I start writing, things happen. That is magic there in itself. All right, we're going to walk Jack out of here. Jack, I look forward to grabbing coffee with you later today, brother. You enjoy your day, and we got Jorie Janzen joining us for the for some protein discussion coming in a second. Johnny, let's get after it, brother.
Let's go, baby. More. We all want more. That's just the way we're wired. Well, what is more? Your more is unique to you. Well, how do you get more? Here's what most people miss, and it's kind of crazy, because once you grab a hold of what I'm going to say, you're going to get more much faster. Well, what am I talking about? I'm talking about you. You are the investment. You have to invest in yourself, because you create the return, which means you get more. Do you want more relationships? Do you want more time? Do you want more freedom? Whatever it is that you want more of, you must become more so you can get more. Unfortunately, what people don't understand, they're really, really good at going to work and getting better at a job that doesn't actually help them personally improve. The most important work a man does is on himself. So if you want more, focus on your self-improvement so you can become more, and you will get more. Rock and roll.
There's Johnny. Get some more guys getting after it. All right. What's up, Jorie?
I'm up.
Yes. Hey, we were having a pretty extended conversation with our author, Jack O'High, and I just let it keep going there. So I appreciate your patience while we were waiting to bring you in the lab here this morning. Jorie, how was your weekend with the big Jets win and Ellery's volleyball this weekend? How'd the whole weekend go with you?
It's amazing how just sitting for most of your weekend is exhausting.
Yes.
It's so stressful, but it was super fun. You watch even other teams, like I've mentioned before, you watch coaches, you watch the young players and just the highs and the lows that go on. And even as the parents sitting there, you're just like nail biting, and I can just feel in my gut it's tensing, and then I'm relaxing. Those, but it's good.
That's
good.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought they finished pretty low, but they finished on a high note in terms of just loving each other and saying, "Hey." I watched on the court, and some like, "Hey, sorry for that reaction."
Oh,
so cool to see. Yeah.
I was waiting for you to offer the results instead of me asking about the results. Well, thank you for sharing the results with us.
Yeah, they're definitely not finals ready type of team.
Yeah,
but I think they show good character and the growth. My goodness, just the growth.
Well, you got to say that's what it comes down to, Joy. It's not about a trophy. It's about the personal development that they're gaining from the situation. And when it comes down to it, I think at this age, you're better off to be in a position where you have to constantly learn to overcome adversity than just be on a team where everything is so easy. Because let's be honest, as a person, when you learn to overcome adversity, you got the fucking world by the short and curlies.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this U14 team, most of them are 13, and it's just, you've got hormones all over the place already, right? And now you've got this, they want the win. They want to advance and be better, and the desire's still there. They still want to play. So,
and your point is well taken, John. So, especially in hockey, and Jory, I grew up with a lot of parents whose kids were goalies, and they want their goalie on the best team. Well, I'm taking Johnny's philosophy. No, I want my kid to be on the worst team so he gets lots of shots. Yeah. Right. So if your kid's a goalie, you want that kid getting a lot of rubbers so he becomes a better goalie. Right. So, but guys, I thought we could have some fun chat this morning around the personalization of nutrition, especially as we move forward. And John, I'm curious about your opinions on this, and Jory, yours as well. And Jory, especially on the day-to-day of the real life with athletes coming to you today, because we know that technology is getting in the middle of everything. And has somebody ever wished that the daily protein shake knew exactly what your body needs? Well, there's some startups now that are using cutting edge AI technology to engineer personalized protein formulas that fine tune.
Can AI somehow make this not fucking processed? I don't think so. That's the problem with it.
So, but here's the thing. It's fine-tuning your amino acid ratios for your specific goals. So think leucine to lysine dialed in for faster recovery or metabolic health. No more one-size-fits-all tubes. So, Johnny, let's put the process side. Let's put the process functionality aside for a moment. More so along this idea of a client coming to each you and saying, "Hey, I now can get some dialed-in protein." Which is I can go to this place here and they can dial it in, which gives me my leucine blend, my lysine blend, and all these different blends that change based on my needs. On the face of it, Jory, you've been practicing this as a nutritionist for ages. Johnny, you have real life experience of ages. What's your initial gut reaction to something like this? And what I'm asking is that, Jorie, the young kids coming up, like Carter and Allery, the 20-year-olds, the 18, 20, 20, that are going to grow up with this kind of choices. What are your thoughts? First of all, Jorie.
So my thoughts are fantastic if it can help create the discussion and allow for some of that information to come quicker rather than later.
Yes.
I love it. I have experience using genetic testing. I have experience with working with others who provide different sort of analysis. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is still coaching and someone's lifestyle. So if you've got a ton of inflammation and your body, it's not just about, based on your age, weight, height, this is what you get. It's a great foundation perhaps to start the conversation. But I have found at the end of the day, it's a tool. It can create some quick information to process, like to sift through, but it hasn't been yet. It hasn't been the answer to creating that change.
Mm-hmm. Johnny?
Well, I'm just going to come with it like this. Someone says to me, yada, yada, yada. I say, hey, great. But here's the question. What we're talking about is the icing on the cake. How's your fucking cake? Are you doing all the shit to make that fucking, if that cake is 95%, if it's toggling between 95% and 100%, you're doing all the shit you're supposed to be doing, then let's talk about putting the icing on the cake. But let's not discuss icing before you've got the cake part of the task out of the way.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I'm fascinated by, what makes me curious about products like this is that we are learning more and more about what's not actually going into these products, right? And we learn about all the fake content that's going into these products, the lead, and we see the ingredients and we're like, okay, well, this is actually not in it. So when I hear these companies creating these new products that are personalized to us, it just makes me curious as to whether it's true or not. You know what I mean, Johnny? Like it's whether it's actually gonna, right?
I think it's like saying that, we what's average, and there's what's the average height, what's the average of whatever.
Yes.
And I think I forget who the author is, but they wrote a book and they took a look at taking parts of what the average of a typical pilot's body was.
Yes.
And when they put that average together, it didn't work for anybody. So there is no such thing as let's take the average, because it doesn't exist.
Yes.
So I think when we look at all of these AI, it's taking an average, it's taking the sum of and averaging to what it might be for you, but it's still not personalized. How you personalize it is taking a look at what you're doing for you. What's your sleep like? What's your exercise routine? What is your budget for food supplementation? That's what personalization is. Personalization isn't taking, based on your stool sample and blood work, we're going to say you have to do this. It's still, even when I create a meal plan for somebody, I always say this is just the starting point. It's still textbook until you start working for you. Exactly. It has to evolve. That's personalization. A test is, even blood work is a snapshot in time of when you took that blood work. Same thing with a microbiome.
It can be different in 5 days. It'll be different.
Right? If you take a stool sample and get an analysis of your microbiome, what sort of bacteria is in your gut, that still is a snapshot. It's like a blood glucose monitoring. That's a snapshot in time. It's not what's happening.
And what Jorie's talking about is the evolution and personalized. That's the cake. That's the shit that has to be done. And so when we're talking about, I understand that AI is making this new formula, but it's it's basically what it's doing is it's fucking shiny object that's getting people to look over there when they got to be focused over here, because that evolution process, number one, it continues to go. It's not like it does it for a week and stops. So you have to fucking stay on top of making sure that you are always keeping your cake, so to speak, the way that it's, you got to focus on the cake. Is nobody wants a mouthful of icing without cake. And that's what we're talking about here.
I do like, though, that the future is moving in a direction where, we are having the ability to own your own health data. and knowing more about your own health and your own data than ever before, and then being curious about that, keeping yourself accountable to that, and then experimenting with that data. Because Jorie and Johnny, we've never had access to the data we have available to us now. And I think we'd be naive to ignore the data that we have available to us today. Am I wrong?
The part though, Keith, is that even though this information is out there, people don't know how to use it.
I agree with you, but that's what I mean. Is that when I look at
even when I'm looking at a food record, someone does a typical recall or they're taking pictures, they're like, they still don't know what to do with it. So I love the idea that there's the information, but the average human, in terms of knowledge, it's kind of scary, because even when I do a nutrigenomics test and people are like, oh my gosh, my iron is like, it's crazy. I'm like, that's not what it says.
Yes.
Well, and I love what Jorie just said, because, you can tell, and I've done this countless times with like people that I know personally that want to do like some variation of what I've done, or even in with business in terms of working with clients. You can tell people exactly what to do to get there. And it's sometimes you're talking about like a proven framework. There's no fucking question marks, and they still won't do it. It's not the information. The information, you can have the perfect information, but it's the application that's the problem. So again, I totally hear where you're coming from, brother, but I see this as it's a fucking shiny object. I don't think that people should be allowed to fuck with shiny objects until they have the shit that's important really nailed down, implemented as a regular part of their daily lives. And it kind of happens without them thinking about, okay, now let's go fucking investigate some of the shit that may or may not help, because what we're doing is what's keeping us healthy. It's keeping us sharp. It's helping us sleep well. Because you got guys like, what's going to happen here is, AI's made this great fucking formula. I'm just going to drink one of these with my Big Mac.
Yes. Well, and
that doesn't work that way. So again, it's what it is. It's another. I mean, I get, because it's AI generated, it's got you all fucking wound up. I get it, but it's a fucking. What I'm going to say to this one is, don't get lost in the fucking details that don't matter if you're not doing the shit you need to do.
Well, this is what fascinates me more than anything, actually. Morning, Jay. I see there in the comments. We're going to wrap this up with Jorie before we keep the show rolling here. This is what fascinates me, is that we have all these people still trying to solve all these problems for all of us as human beings. AI-generated protein, personalized meal plans, personalize this, personalize that. And then Keith gets up, goes to the kitchen, and stands like a fat son of a bitch in front of the fucking fridge in the pantry, wondering what he's going to eat. Because nobody's
let's have AI solve that problem. Now we've got
nobody's still solved my emotional challenges, what's going on in my brain right now, which is why I'm still trying to chase the sugar. And that to me is why I think Jorie's always going to have a job, or Johnny's always going to have a job, because we can give all these tools, but when it comes down to it, I'm looking for that emotional connection with my coach, for Jorie to say to me, okay, Keith, what happened last night at 9:00 when you were standing in front of the pantry? Oh man, I collapsed. You know what I mean?
They're always going to come to us for the application.
Yes, I agree with that, and I do agree. But it's not lost upon me either, though, how rapid technology is enabling us to learn more about ourselves, learn more about the data about ourselves. And we'd be ignorant not to pay attention to it either, because, my son's asking me.
Let me argue the flip side of that. We also have to point out that a lot of this shit is making it worse, because it's taking people's attention further away from what they really need to be looking at.
Yeah, I don't know. I would debate that. I think that's people like your children, Johnny and Carter and Allery, like that are coming up are it's one thing to teach them good habits and good discipline, but when you're presented with good data, it might help you make different decisions along the way as well.
Well, no, I'm not saying data. I'm talking about shiny objects.
Yes. Well, and that's never going to
listen. All I do is fucking gather data. Data is what helps me make decisions.
Yes.
But I'll tell you where I'm not getting my fucking data: on the back of a fucking AI generated fucking tub of protein.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when I think of a couple things. I remember when I first started with a pro team years ago, when I went in to meet with this pro athlete, and he said to me, it was just, do you do hair analysis? Because I want to know what I need to supplement. That's it. And so when you get this information, it's like, okay, so what do I need to supplement with? It's like, maybe you just need to eat.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's how
it's another shiny object, man. I love it, Jorie. Such a great example.
How are you using the data that's coming in so quickly? It's cool. It comes in, and my clients come in with these great questions. They're not necessarily more educated, but they're more aware of information.
Yes.
So it's up to then the professionals to make sure that we sift through and pick out what is it that is really needed out of all of the information that they're getting.
And truthfully, before we say goodbye here, if we weren't doing all this research and all these studies, we'd have nothing to talk about. And there'd be nobody calling you up, Jorie, saying, yeah, I got a hair sample. What should I be eating? And somebody calling Johnny saying, I got this. So the good news is that there's people constantly trying to create new snake oils to talk to our industry about so that we can get on this show and have discussions about it, dispelling it, supporting it, or being curious about it. Yeah. Right. But the fact of the matter is good habits, good discipline, look at the data, be curious about the data, but it's not a magical one-size-all approach.
Well, and here's the thing. I want to make sure I've taken a hard stance against this, but I also want to make sure that I include that, listen, if you're doing the shit you need to do and you've taken the information, you've applied it, it's evolving, you're understanding what you're getting through food. And I'm having a hard, someone came, Jorie said, I'm doing all this with my food and I'm just having a hard time keeping this level up. That's where supplementation comes in, because he's recognizing he's doing everything he can to bake the cake right now. Okay. If that's handled, so there is a small percentage of people that could benefit from this, but the problem is those people don't need to hear this conversation because they already know.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Love that.
Guys, what a great. So this is why we have these conversations, right? My job is to throw it on the table, and you guys your job is to dispel it, support it, throw it out the window, or us to debate about it. Jorie, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us today, as always. What's on your agenda today, kid?
I get to go to, I've been doing this since 2019, going to my daughter's old elementary school. And I get to hang out with some grade 5s today and just kind of chat about nutrition for health, wellness, and performance. So
do you talk to food pyramid, or do you talk to upside down food pyramid? Or?
Well, I don't talk food pyramid. I just talk about food.
That's awesome. All right, Jorie, you enjoy your day today. Go Jets, go, and we'll catch up with you a little later this week, okay? All right.
See you guys.
Thank you, Jorie.
Jory's going to get out of here. Johnny, we're going to reset. We got Rob Scribner joining us here in a minute. I want to do a deep dive segment on caffeine. You want to step away for a quick break, brother?
Yeah, you got to give me a piss for sure.
Yeah, get out of here. All right, Jimmy, we're resetting hour 2 of Mornings Live with Keith and Friends. Wow. Jimmy, 75 minutes in the books here, and I don't know where all the time went, actually. It's been kind of one of those days here today. It's just been a great day of conversation and great show here. But guys, why I'll never quit caffeine and you shouldn't either. Let's get real about caffeine before we bring Rob Scribner in here. My absolute secret weapon for high performance, creativity, and all day energy. I've been drinking caffeine pretty much a big time, a lot of my life. And I will regret to inform you much of it was around Coke Zero and Diet Coke in the early days when I was building ICUC. Met Lauren, now I crush coffee daily. Love it. And there was a time when I bought into this hype around quitting caffeine, thinking it was the right thing to do. Yeah, I experimented with cutting back, even going caffeine free entirely for a short, that was a long time ago, brutal month. It was horrible, man. Dropped it all. And let me tell you, it was not a pretty situation. No, productivity tanked, dopamine was done, workouts felt sluggish, and I just didn't feel like myself. I just love having the caffeine. Yeah, true story. But here's the thing. The caffeine isn't the enemy. It's how we use it that matters. And I think that's the problem with much of us, right? Instead of ditching my morning coffee, I dove into the research. And did you know that a strategically timed cup of coffee in the morning can reduce your risk of heart disease, boost your metabolism, and even improve mental clarity and mood? It's true. Recently, there's been some studies showing that regular coffee drinkers had significantly lower risks of heart-related deaths compared to non-drinkers. providing they kept consumption mostly in the mornings. And guys, I'm not talking about sugar and milk with coffee on top. No, I'm talking about just good old black coffee, right? You got to have the sugar and milk. Well, that's your choice. But for me, the coffee has become more than a beverage. It's part of my routine. It's part of my ritual. It's part of how I count my day in. My 2 cups of black coffee as I'm starting my day. It's the fuel that jumpstarts my creativity and powers my morning hustle. It signals to my brain, hey, Keith, it's go time. But like everything, guys, balance is the key, right? I keep my coffee intake smart. Mostly mornings, that's it. Might have some Coke Zero throughout the day from time to time. And I drink tons of water. And guess what? I feel sharp, more energized, and always quite effective. But the empowering takeaway from this is caffeine can be absolutely your ally if you use it in great ways. But guys, I just encourage you to use it. Don't ditch it. You ditch it? I don't know. So I'm curious, how does caffeine play into your daily routine? Have you experimented with timing? Do you drink it out the day? Do you drink it only in evenings? What is your coffee habits? Let's talk about it. I know John's a big coffee fan, a big caffeine fan, but I'm a big fan of my caffeine. And guys, I was going to come here today to say I'm done with it, but now I'm keeping up with it forever. Jimmy, let's bring Johnny up before we bring in Rob Scribner. I want Johnny's opinion on caffeine and coffee. Johnny, have you been a caffeine guy your whole life?
Yeah, well, here's the deal. Yes, I've used caffeine. Well, I mean, of course, when you're young, you haven't discovered it yet, or you're not allowed. But here's the deal with caffeine. And if you start your, I guess you'd say, your thought process, your mental monologue with one simple question, it'll help you understand a little bit about how you're using it, because using it properly can be very powerful. Is your caffeine use a tool, or has it turned into a crutch?
Yes.
Crutch, you got to fucking switch some shit up, because if you're dependent on it, now it's going to hurt you.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that you got to really kind of look at this thing. It's something can very, very helpful.
Yes.
But has it gotten away from you? I've been there before, man. I mean, I've had, when I was young, I was always looking. This is before pre-workouts. This is what, I mean, we're talking 1989, 1990. We would take caffeine tablets before training. Largely because what we were told, which is true, there is some, well, back then, I'm not sure if it still exists, that high levels of caffeine would slow down lactic acid buildup. So we're like, we can train longer, right? So we were taking these huge amounts of fucking caffeine, like, sometimes like in tablet format, like 1,000 milligrams in one swallow, Yeah. Anyway, it started off as a tool. It quickly became a crutch. I can't tell you how. I mean, if I didn't take caffeine that day, it was 2 different personalities. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I can relate to that, man. Bell, I see your comments.
Fucking mad as hell most of the time.
Bell, I see your comments. It depends. It's on a person-by-person basis, depending on how many factors, including medical. Yes. Hey, Bell, you're hanging out with myself and Jon Andersen in Mornings Lab with Keith and Friends, the only morning show for men. And we got a guest coming up here in just a quick second. Johnny, get this. Could you flip $25K of debt into savings in just 3 months? Well, today's guest did. Rob Scribner did exactly that for one family without magic, lottery tickets, or hidden treasure maps. Listen, this guy, a financial coaching powerhouse who spent over 2 decades closing deals across tech, education, finance, and digital marketing, Rob Scribner isn't just your average finance guy. He's an everyday dude tackling extraordinary financial challenges for ordinary people. From dad jokes about his twin daughters to flipping financial scripts, Rob's here to help you ditch the debt and build some real wealth. If you're ready to transform your financial future, we've got the guy coming in. Gentlemen, Jimmy, let's bring him up. Rob Scribner. Let's welcome him to Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. What's going on, Rob?
Hey, what's happening, guys? Good morning. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
What's
Absolutely.
up?
You've been hanging out in the green room listening to the conversation. What have you taken from the show so far today, Mr. Scribner?
Oh, I love it. Love it. I love what the guest said earlier about writing. There's a book called Writing on the Bones. So for any aspiring writer, that's a great book to pick up. But you can't just read a book about writing, right? You have to actually do it. So it's just like push-ups. You can't read a book about push-ups. You just got to do it.
That's a good one. I like that, brother.
I love that. I love it. Hey, Rob, you call yourself an ordinary dude doing extraordinary things. What's one extraordinary goal you have that you haven't yet shared publicly? because today is the day that you get a chance to share it with Keith and Johnny and everybody in Mornings Live Nation.
I want to pay off my mortgage.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I
So-
want to pay off the mortgage. That's something that's been on my heart for a while. And
brother, I just gotta join in. I tell you, I did that 2 different times, and it feels fucking great every time. I can't wait to go back for the third, man.
Amen, brother. Congratulations. That's awesome.
So the question I'd ask you would be why?
I think it would provide an incredible amount of margin in my life. Not having that monthly mortgage payment, being able to give more generously, being able to sock away a considerable amount of savings for my twin girls, as you mentioned at the outset. I think it just provides, I think money provides leverage for people when you don't have other people's name on your money, and you're not sending it to this bank, or you're not sending it this, this person that you owe money to, or you're not huge into debt. You have margin in your life and you have leverage. And I think
let me just sneak in there real quick, brother. Everything you're saying is so true. But one of the things that I found out early on, which really fucking snapped me into wanting to go after this, was I think it's the number one or number 2 expense a human being has in America is interest. So if I can get rid of that interest, then everything you described, my family, blah, 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 I can take all that was once going to interest, and I can fucking put it towards, the next generations.
Absolutely, John. Yeah. And the other thing too about interest is that interest paid is like you're behind the 8 ball, right? But interest earned in the form of compound interest is huge. It's everything. It's an explosion. So yeah.
So Rob, what's the best financial advice you have received personally, and why has that advice stuck with you?
So one thing I learned at my time at Ramsey Solutions, I worked for Dave Ramsey's team in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nice.
One of the things that Dave talks about is money is amoral, right? Money does not have morals. It doesn't have values. It's a tool, right? And so what it does is it magnifies who somebody already is. So if you're, excuse my language, I think I'm free to say this, but if you're an asshole and you're broke, you're going to be a really big asshole when you got money. I love it. I was literally saying asshole in my brain when you said it. I love it. No, that wasn't a Dave Ramsey quote. So don't. I'm not going to quote Dave on that specific word, but
just the concept.
Exactly. If you're a rude, mean, nasty person to be around and you're broke, well, you're going to be that way when you're rich. And the opposite is true too. If you're generous and you just got a good spirit about you and people like being around you and you're broke, well, all the more people are going to like that when you got a little bit of wealth going. So that's the best advice I've been given is money does not have morals. It's a tool to use. And it goes back to that word leverage I mentioned earlier.
So then, Rob, many think that you have to be wealthy, financially wealthy, to make a meaningful community impact. Can you debunk that myth?
Absolutely. I think education is a prime example, right? So there's educators, middle school teachers, high school teachers that are making a huge impact in their community. There's soccer coaches, baseball coaches, football coaches, wrestling coaches, which is my jam.
Baby.
They're making a hit, right? Did you wrestle, John?
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool.
2 times. I made it to state twice, never placed, but I was the last wrestling match I ever had was to place or not, and unfortunately, I didn't win.
Oh, okay. Well, I never made it to that level. I liked Burger King and co-eds too much, but but I think to answer your question and to debunk that myth, I think it starts with education and community, and I think middle school, high school teachers and coaches that is 13 to 18, right? Ages 13 to 18. I mean, that is like your formative years and you're developing who you're going to be as a person and as an adult. And to have positive mentors, those people aren't, they're not hedge fund, they're not working in hedge funds. They're not on Wall Street, right? They're making a very, very average, as Jorie mentioned earlier, they're making a very average wage, but they're making a huge impact, an above average impact in their community.
Dude, I gotta say, this you just kind of, I've been toying with this idea, and I'm going to give this credit to you, brother. I've been toying with this idea of going and volunteer. I've done this many times, volunteering with local high school and help with the wrestling team. And you know, one of the high schools close to where I live, the wrestling team, they literally just have a teacher that sits in there and the kids just do the best they can. So I think you've inspired me. I think this next season I travel a lot. So that's part of in my mind, I think, I travel too much. I won't be there all the time, but if I can just show up when I can, that would be a huge benefit. I think I'm going to give you the credit. You're the guy that has pushed the button for me to take the steps. So thank you.
Roger that, John. Yeah, you're welcome, man. Thank you for that.
That's awesome, Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob, what's you sit down with the client for the first time, what's your go-to strategy or first step you recommend to someone who's just drowning in debt?
Yeah. So the first thing I say is congratulations. It's normal, right? We're all in debt. My country, I live here in Tennessee, the great state of Tennessee in the United States. And, you know, our country is deep into debt. I don't know if either of you guys are aware of that.
Oh yeah, I'm here in Canada. Johnny's
unbelievable. Oh yeah, like we've never said we're the biggest debtor in the fucking world.
I'm telling you, brother. So the first thing I would say is I wouldn't necessarily normalize debt, but what they're feeling and the angst that they're feeling is very, very common. A couple things I approach with a client. Number one, everything you tell me is confidential. So I'm not going to go tell my wife. I'm not going to go tell, my pastor. I'm not going to tell, I'm not going to tell people about your situation, right? This is unique. And I pride myself on it's 100% confidential. So that's number one, keeping people's confidence. Number two is you tell me whatever you want to tell me as far as your financial situation. So the more you tell me, the quicker we can come up with a plan and execute it. So if you hold out on me, it's just going to take longer, right? And so I really approach it from that standpoint. And then I think the third thing, I lived in Vegas for a couple of years. And so you guys would be surprised how many people I've worked with that have, they owe the wrong people money. I'll just say it that way. So the third thing I say is, hey,
that's elegantly put.
are you okay? Right? Like, you don't owe the wrong people any money right now, right? Like, and some people are like, actually, I owe a couple guys, 10 grand, and I'm like, okay, well, let's come up with a plan. I want you to show them the plan, show them that you're working with a coach. And that guy came back to me about 2 months later and they forgave the last $6 grand of his debt. And wow. it was really cool. I told him, don't mention my name.
Yeah, it's got to be confidential on both sides of the fence here.
Confidence is two-way street, John. You got it. Yeah.
Funny, man. That's funny. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So I just, keeping people's confidence is of the utmost importance to me because you know what, we're vulnerable, right? And so people, especially us guys, right? We don't want to admit that we have a problem, whatever that problem might be, right? Addiction, gambling, porn, whatever. We don't want to admit that we are not up to snuff and we need help. And so that's
hard to admit that shit to ourselves, man. It really is.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, we got a comment from Rick Clody for you, Scribner, and Clody's also he's also in Tennessee. You killed it, Rob. What a great show. What was the name of that book you recommended? I missed it. Great job, and thanks for sharing your great insights with us. So, Clody, I welcome you to go meet Scribner over on the LinkedIn platform. Scribner, go meet Clody. You guys can connect on that. But, Rob, some rapid fires coming at you, brother. Our favorite guilty pleasure podcast or book?
Ooh.
Orange Lab with Keith and Friends?
Oh man, let's see. Yeah. Besides that, right? I would say, oh man, I love dulce de leche Haagen-Dazs, right?
Oh.
Ice cream. So that is a we have to keep that out of my freezer. Yeah,
that would fall into one of my addictions right there, brother. So I admit that to myself. That's why I'm with you. I can't keep that in the freezer either.
Yeah, I would say that. And to answer your question, the audience member's question, Writing on the Bones. I don't remember the author, but the book is called Writing on the Bones.
Awesome. Worst purchase you've ever made?
We bought a lemon. When we lived in Houston, we bought a vehicle from a fellow churchgoer. And I learned a lot of lessons in that purchase. That was a waste of $5,000. But I'm not going to mention the dealership. Obviously, I won't mention the name. But
at least it was only $5,000, brother. Goddamn, if I think back to how many $5,000 mistakes I've made that were just not well. We've all got those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thank God there wasn't a zero. That there was no zero behind that 5. Which thank God.
That's a great point, John. Yeah, that's a great point. So, and relationships were kind of ruined over that too. So, and that unfortunately, money does that sometimes. And but that's okay. We moved on, and actually, a redemption part of that story. 6 months later, when we were moving back to Tennessee. We were going to sell our house in Houston. We donated that vehicle to Soldiers Angels. And about a month after that, they fixed it up. They had a team of mechanics there locally that fixed it up. They were able to bless a veteran with that vehicle. And now he's on the road and he's up and running. So
isn't it crazy? I mean, it was supposed to happen.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Rob, morning coffee.
I'm sure you got a tax write-off for donating it too. So
that helped. Yeah, exactly. So everybody won, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Good shit, brother.
Rob, morning coffee or afternoon energy drink?
Oh, morning coffee. Yeah.
There you go.
I can't have anything.
Yeah, I was going to be disappointed if you went with the afternoon, so I'm very happy. Good shit.
Me both, John. Hey, Rob, if money wasn't an issue, if money was no issue for you, what's the first extravagant thing you would buy?
After I pay off my mortgage, right? I would say. So my wife and I have two girls. Hopefully, God blesses us with more. I would want one of those, for lack of a better term, like party van, right? But I would want one of those like souped up. I think they're like 80 or 90 grand, but a souped up van.
You want a Sprinter van?
Yeah, exactly, like a party bus.
Yeah.
I've been in a few of those in my time.
Yeah, same here. Yeah,
in Vegas.
Yeah, yeah, working in Vegas, that's a separate conversation, y'all. But my time in Vegas was very interesting.
Too funny. Rob, closing question for you, brother. Imagine your twin daughters listening to this interview years from now. What's the single most important money lesson you'd want them to remember?
Good question. Holy shit.
Don't have other
That's
people's
good.
name. That is good. Don't have other people's name on your money. You create margin, you create leverage for yourself. And when the market takes a downturn, you'll have an opportunity to purchase some stuff, whether that's real estate, stocks, or otherwise.
Awesome. Dude, that's good shit right there.
There's a nugget from Rob Scribner joining us this morning on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends. Hey, Rob, we're walking you out of here. How can our audience, how can Mornings in the Lab Nation connect with you, find you, work with Rob Scribner?
Absolutely. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn, y'all. So you can find me there at Rob Scribs on Instagram. I really appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Johnny, final words for Rob before we say goodbye?
I gotta say, brother, I had a great time talking with you. Thank you for showing up, and you gave me a nice little piece of inspiration. There's something about you talking just made me say, you know what, it's time, and so I thank you for that.
Right on. Thanks, John. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, awesome. All right, guys, listen, we're gonna walk Rob out. Rob, look forward to grabbing coffee later today. Okay, brother?
Sounds great, brother. Thank you, guys.
We'll catch you later. Johnny's gonna get out of here. He's got some stuff to do in Mexico. Johnny, what do you got going on today, brother?
Well, I literally at this house, my training facility is outdoors, so I get to go outside and train in the morning sunlight, which I'm very excited about.
That's a lot of fun. Well, my brother, you go enjoy your lift. I saw the videos you sent with me before. That looks pretty fucking awesome. You go have some fun. And we got Rick Clody coming in and saying, what a great guest in Rob Scribner. Not sure how you find all these gems of people, but you did it again. We do our best, my friend. We do what we can. And Amy Reiner coming with great guests. Johnny, you have yourself an awesome day, man. I got Tim Eibel joining me here for a couple minutes. We're going to do the community corner. John, this dude, man, This guy, ever secretly eaten a burger in your car hoping no one would find out? Well, Johnny, this guy did. And now he's helping others ditch the dad bod and regain their zest for life. I suspect this guy subscribes some similar philosophies as yourself, Mr. Andersen. So we're going to hang out with Tim.
We got to have it. We got to have him. That's good shit. We got to have him come back when I got the time, man. It'd been a great conversation.
I agree. Okay, you'll get your lift in, pal, and we'll look forward to reconnecting with you tomorrow. And hey, ideally tomorrow we'll wake up and reconnect again. My boys are up 2-0 in the series.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
All right, pal. I love you, man. Have a good one,
move, brother.
Yeah, man. All right. Johnny's going to get out of here. Jimmy, we're going to bring in Tim in just a quick second. Amy Rounder, I see your comment there. Yeah, I'd say Scribner is almost as good as you. I think we might be due for having you back here in the lab here in a second here, Amy. But we got somebody coming up here now, Jimmy. We got Tim Ebel, a former binge eater turned certified primal health coach. Jimmy, certified primal health coach. After hitting rock bottom, this guy with secret fast food binges. I knew a guy like that. It wasn't me, but I knew a guy who did secret fast food binges left and right, man, and health scares. This guy completely turned his life around. Now he's on a mission to help you simplify your health journey, lose the extra weight, and turn back the clock to feel 20 years younger. Prepare yourself because we're going to dive into some simple, no-nonsense strategies that help reshape your body and your mindset. Jimmy, let's bring him up. Let's bring up Mr. Tim Ebel this morning on Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. Tim, what's shaking, brother?
Morning. How are you today?
Today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Where are you joining me from?
I'm in northern Alberta, Canada.
You're in Canada too. Yes. Yeah. So I'm in here in Winnipeg, obviously home of the Jets. Are you cheering on the Oilers? You're cheering on the Flames?
Yeah. I'm staying out of it right now.
Oh, you are you? Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, Nation, we celebrated Tim over on the Community Corner on his Substack a few weeks back, and we invited Tim to be on the show here today to pay it forward and celebrate somebody here this morning on Mornings in the Lab. And Tim used to hide his binge eating from his wife by stuffing fast food wrappers under car seats. Dude, really?
Yeah, it's it doesn't matter what addiction you've got. If you're hiding it, then it's obviously a problem, right?
Yes. But ironically enough, you got healthy without stepping foot inside of a gym. Proof that you can ditch the treadmill dead and proof you can ditch the lifting dread for those that like to not lift. What did you do to get yourself in the right direction, brother?
Well, I got a nutritional coach, and that was the first step, was get the food under control. And the basic philosophy that she had was to add the things that I needed to be eating, and that kind of squeezed out the things that I shouldn't be eating. Like, you've only got so much, so she started adding more protein, for instance, to start with, and then more veggies. And then before you know it, she suggested that I cut back a little bit on the sugar, and it just it took a life of its own. And I really appreciated her philosophy on this, and that's kind of the same way I go too, is because if we're denying ourselves, then we're going to run into a problem. We want to approach this from a different point of view. Hang on, I got to shut off this furnace.
Yeah, go for it. Hey, we're hanging out with Tim Ebel here this morning on Mornings Live with Keith and Friends. He just turning off the furnace. Hey, Tim, when was the rock bottom moment when you knew you needed to change?
So that would have been one night I was in McDonald's. I was working away from home that week, so I wasn't under the, I had nobody paying attention to what I was doing. Living in a hotel, and I ended up going to 3 different fast food places in one night. I started at McDonald's, and then I ended up over at Wendy's, and then I ended up over at Arby's. So, and I ate 3 full meals in probably hour and a half. And that was a moment where, I was basically, I'll admit it, I was suicidal at that point. Yeah. It was out of control. I couldn't do anything about it. And, when you hit that moment where you're either, I got to change or I got to end this, is where I was at. So, and I started looking around, and I managed to find somebody locally that I could talk to. And, so I was willing to do anything at that point to get out of that situation, except for I would never go to a doctor. because I couldn't talk to certain people about it at all. Just too much shame, So I went and found somebody that didn't know me, that I could trust, and I talked to her about it. And so I couldn't find myself any way to get to a doctor, and I couldn't tell my wife what was going on. Nobody really knew. Everybody knew I was getting, I'm sure, out of shape, but because I put on quite a bit of weight that year.
Tim,
And
that takes a remarkable amount of courage to share that with me, man. That takes a remarkable. So thank you for sharing that with me. That takes a lot of courage to share that. I appreciate your vulnerability, and you know what? You're just you're supporting what I'm trying to create here on the show, which is a safe space for men to offer up their journey. Because I can tell you, there's a lot of guys that have been on that same journey as you, right? Sitting in the fast food line and wondering how to get out of it.
And I think that's the first step, is you got to admit to yourself that you need to do something different. You gotta know that there is a way. You're not alone, right? This is the kind of thing, like you pointed out, that other people are having a problem with, whether it's food or alcohol or whatever, and an addiction that you can't solve on your own. And you have to find somebody you can talk to about this, and you have to make some steps. But at the same time, you got to remember that there's always, just because it's really bad right at that moment, there's always somewhere you can go with it. There's always, you can always improve. So same with my back. Like, my back was just destroyed. It was a wreck. I was in pain all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just going to chiropractors and massage therapists and taking pills, and that wasn't getting me anywhere either, until I decided that I needed to make changes and actually take some action myself. Then nothing was moving, right? You can only go to so many chiropractors, and you get momentary relief, and then nothing changes. And we have to look for solutions that we can be active participants in.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, what's in your experience, what's one myth about diet, eating, and weight loss that through your experience you'd love to debunk once and for all? Regular dude, not with all respect, not a nutritionist, not a bodybuilder. You're a regular dude who woke up one day going, I'm fucking fat. I'm not feeling good about myself. I need to change my life.
Yeah.
And I'm now I want to speak to a man who thinks there are these myths, and I want to debunk the myth in his head. What's the myth?
So the number one myth, I would say, is that exercise is going to do it by itself. Lots of guys think, you can run and run and run, and you'll never get any thinner.
Yeah, I love the headlines, which is do these exercises to create great abs. Oh yeah. Where's the app? Where's the exercise that says don't eat the cake? Just you know what I mean? Yeah. So is that the myth? It's not the exercise, is it? What's the truth? The kitchen?
The truth is, it's probably what I would say 80% what you put in your face.
Yeah.
Decides what shape you are afterwards. And it's a hard one in our society, because we got so much food. It's on every street corner, literally, and nothing in general that's the healthiest. So we need to wrap our brains around the idea that it's in our control. Our bodies are in our control, and the first step to that is choosing the right foods.
Yeah. I would imagine that for somebody who has been on this path and on this journey, you quickly realize that the food that we're so we are what we eat, right? Like, literally, we are what we eat, right? And I think you, who's been through that, can state that as profound as anybody, because you go, I was the Big Mac, I was the Burger King, because I was that guy. Now I'm eating good, lean, healthy foods, whole ingredient foods, and now you probably represent yourself the same way.
Yeah, I'd say so. And that's not to say that you can't ever have any of those things again. You just have to, like, I follow an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, make good choices. 20% of the time, you're out with friends. You might want to have for instance, you want to have a drink, or in my case, a poutine. I'm a poutine addict.
Yes, good for you. Yeah.
But as long as you're not doing that every day, like, And the rest of the time, you got to make sure that you get. I'm like I mentioned at the beginning. I'm a big fan of making sure you get the right foods first. If you put the right foods in first, you're going to be less hungry for the wrong things later.
Yeah.
So don't deny yourself those things off the bat. Just say, okay, I'm going to get this much protein and I'm going to get these veggies in. Now I can have, whatever treat thing maybe after that.
Yes.
That
Yes.
20%. So,
Yes.
and then of course, if you got some weight to lose, you might have to be a little more extreme on yourself at first. But it depends on where you're at. It's not about losing weight; it's about being healthy. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Hey, you're hanging out with Keith Bellis, producer Jimmy and Tim Abel this morning on Mornings Live with Keith Friends. We're on the Community Corner. We celebrated Tim here a couple weeks back, and now we're going to celebrate somebody else. We invited Tim into the lab here, and Tim, here's how it works. You gave me somebody, and we're going to take that light that I shined on you a few weeks ago, and we're going to take that light, and we're going to move it across the prairies of Canada over to Alberta. I'm going to pass it over to you, and you're going to shine on somebody else. But Tim, there are some topics people just don't talk about. Not in public, not at work, not with friends. But the silence doesn't mean that the struggle isn't there. It just means most people are dealing with it alone. And one creator that you're deciding to celebrate today decided to change that. And he took the hardest parts of his story and started writing about them every week, not to get attention, to create connection, to build structure, and to help people walk a path toward real healing. This guy's name, Jimmy, not going to promote him just yet. This guy's name, he's the voice behind Porn Free Millennial on Substack. Now, this guy's mission is clear. He helps men escape the cycle of porn addiction through honest conversation, practical frameworks, and accountability that actually works. This morning, Mornings Live with Keith and Friends, along with our friend Tim Abel, is excited to introduce you to our new friend, Mac. Oops. And there's Mac. Mac's the voice behind Porn Free Millennial on Substack. And he doesn't speak theory. He speaks from experience. His newsletter is part recovery tool, part personal journal, and part rallying cry for men who want more from their lives than secrecy and shame. You don't need to be in recovery to understand the value of Mac's work. If you care about healing, clarity, and doing hard things the right way, Mac's writing is worth your time. This spotlight, guys, was nominated by our guest here today, Tim Abel. Tim, I'm going to pass it over to you. Why are we celebrating Mac today?
Mac has an amazing amount of courage to talk about this issue. He's gone through some severe relationship troubles in his past because of his porn addiction, and I feel like it's a big problem. I think that it's one of the bigger hidden addictions. You definitely, like you said, it's something that people are afraid to talk about, and it's not just men. It's up to, I think, 16% of ladies also at this time have porn troubles. So it's a really prevalent problem. We're not even going to go into how many men have this issue. Mm-hmm. And Mac is a really supportive guy. He's easy to talk to, and he's thoughtful. He's got a lot of great characteristics that I really like.
So, Mac, here's how it works, my brother. We're celebrating you here today. Tim Abel celebrated you. Tim Abel put your name on the list. Say, hey, we want to celebrate Mac. So here's how it works, Mac. We'd love to have you in the lab. We'd love to have you in Tim's chair so I can pass the light to you, so we can pay this forward and celebrate somebody in your universe, Mac, where you think somebody's doing some great work, so we can celebrate them in the Creator Spotlight, the Community Corner. Tim, what a great nomination, man. I agree with you. Porn addiction and pornography is listen, it's been around forever, not going away. It's a tap away on every device we carry on our phones, and it certainly is prevalent. I have young children. What I'm proud about with this show is we talk about it on this show. We don't hide from it on this show, and we invite men to come have conversations about it. Whether it's good or bad or indifferent, we want to talk about it on this show. So I appreciate you throwing Mac's name on the table and introducing us to Mac to have this conversation about how we can overcome our challenges with pornography.
Yeah, Mac, I've talked to him quite a few times now, and he's a great guy. And he's also on a adventuresome journey where he's got his RV and he's working on the road as a digital nomad too. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
The freedom in his life.
Nice. So Tim, I'd like to have you back for some further conversation. We're going to wrap up our community corner segment here with you, but let's do some quick hitters before we say goodbye. Best fast food alternative for Tim Eibel.
Best fast food alternative. I go to Costco and I pick up 4 different kinds of nuts, and I make little baggies of nuts to go, and I throw them in my lunch bag. And then that way, if I'm driving around and I driving past the fast food place, I just reach into there and grab one of those out.
Nice. I remind myself when I'm walking to the bakery, I'm seeing foods that I want to eat, but I don't want to eat. I remind myself nothing feels as good as fit feels right now. And I'm pretty fit.
Oh yeah.
And I remind myself that, man, I feel really good right now. I'm going to eat that. My dopamine's going to spike. I'm going to feel great for about 3 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes. And I'm going to crush this fucking Reese's peanut butter cup in 2 minutes. And then I'm going to feel shitty in 3 minutes later from that. So I'm constantly reminding myself of that whole thing. I'm sure you can probably relate to that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. How long does it take you to eat a chocolate bar or whatever?
Exactly.
2 minutes?
Fuck, not even, man. I can crush chocolate bar in less than a minute. Right? My dopamine spikes, my blood sugar goes up, and then 3 minutes later, I'm feeling like a guilty piece of shit because I just crushed it. Tim Eibel, food you secretly miss.
Food I secretly miss. Well, I think it's mashed potatoes. Sounds crazy, but I try to avoid making that for supper because I'll eat as much as there is. So that and poutine.
Interesting.
It's always the potatoes for me.
Yeah. Morning smoothie or hearty breakfast?
I would say hearty breakfast.
And
bacon.
And one exercise that you actually enjoy, Tim Eibel.
I'm gonna give you 2 there: kettlebell and running.
Ooh, nicely done, my brother. Nicely done. And finally, a closing question for you, my friend, which is, looking back, what's the funniest or most unexpected thing that you learned from your journey out of binge eating?
The most unexpected thing. And I'm going to go with, everyone's trained to think that you need to take the skin off your chicken. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
Yes.
Skin on the chicken's better for you, healthier. But we're all trained to rip it off or throw it away for some reason.
I love skin on the chicken, so I'm leaving skin on the chicken, brother. I'm leaving skin on the chicken. All right, well, listen, Rob Eibel, thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you're doing. I appreciate all the help you're giving out to over on Substack with all the great humans you're connecting with. And I hope you enjoyed your experience with me today on the show.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Awesome. I'll look forward to connecting with you later today and grab a quick coffee.
Sure.
Beautiful.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
All right, Tim's going to get out of here, Jimmy. We're going to do one last creator spotlight here in the community corner. Let's see here. We got somebody coming up here celebrating somebody on the LinkedIn side of things. You ever met somebody who makes cold calling look fun? I'm not talking about Joe Fontana. Nope. Didn't think so. Because that person, they don't exist. Except the guy I'm talking about does. And he's fully unhinged in the best possible way. This guy's got... What? He's a philosophy grad turned recruiter. Sorry, my notes I had a little dyslexia for a quick second. He built a $3 million business by 27. He earned a Ferrari. Then he gave it all up to become a sales trainer. Yep, apparently it's a true story. But not just any trainer. This guy wears weird like armor. Yeah, this guy wears weird like armor. He teaches cold calling like a contact sport. And he's on a mission to turn every underdog into a closer. Guys, I want to introduce you to this fella right now. Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends is excited to introduce you to meet Giulio Segantini. Giulio, aka the weirdest sales trainer on LinkedIn, founder of Underdog Sales, cold calling evangelist, pipeline therapist, certified pineapple on pizza hater. Giulio, sorry, buddy, doesn't just teach sales. He makes it human, psychological, tactical, ridiculous in the best possible way. At Mornings in the Lab, we love creators who stand out by being more themselves, not less. No, and Giulio isn't trying to fit in. He's trying to help you break through. I invite you guys to follow Giulio Segantini or Julio Segantini. I'm sorry, brother, if I'm not saying your name right. Learn how to sell with energy, psychology, and a little chaos. And now I'd love to invite you on the show so you can teach me how to say your name and how we can give you the Mornings in the Lab Creator Spotlight. bring you into the community corner, and shine it on somebody in your world on the Mornings in the Lab Creator Spotlight. All right, there we go, guys. Wrapping it up here on day number 2. I'm sorry, day 2, Jimmy. I mean, Monday of the Morning Loop. Woo! We're done. Yeah, we're done here today. Big show. Holy smokers, big show. Man, we started off the show with, I'm trying to think now. Jack L. Hay. Went over to Rob Scribner. Finished off with Tim Eibel. Along the way, we had Jorie Janzen. We talked personalized nutrition. We talked writing books today. We talked financial advice today. We talked binge eating today. Man, we talked everything that a man has on his mind as he goes through his day. We talked good decisions, bad decisions. We talked wrestling with decisions. Hey, just the normal conversation on Mornings Lab with Keith and friends. All right, well, listen, we're going to get out of here, Jim. Back at it tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time right here, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. The only morning show to help guys get out of bed, attack big, audacious goals, not hit the snooze button. Tomorrow, Jimmy, what do we got tomorrow, Jimmy? Let me look at my notes. Tomorrow, episode 2031. Yeah, let me see here, Jim. I'm going to pull it up here, too. I think my mouse is dying as the show is ending up here today. That could be tragic. I think I saw it be just tragedy. Let me see here, brother. All right, there we go here. I know. Tomorrow we're talking about ditching social media apps. I did that. You guys know my story. I went ghosting. I'm going to talk about what improved of that. Tomorrow we got a guest as well. We have coming up tomorrow on the show. I know we have somebody coming tomorrow. Jimmy, I know we do. We have Wade Chanel joining us tomorrow on the show. Yep, Wade Chanel. 8 o'clock Eastern time, right here, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. On behalf of producer Jimmy, Jon Andersen, Christopher Martin, all the people that showed up today, I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. Tim Eibel, appreciate you hanging out with me as well, my friend. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 o'clock, right here, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. I'm getting out of here. Jimmy, get me off the stage. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Boom! Go Jets, go!